What's going on?
Hey, how's it going?
What's up?
How you guys doing?
Doing good. Doing
Oh,
good.
you know, had one of those days, but as you can probably hear, I've had one of those days. But luckily, Austin's a little bit more responsible than I am. No,
Good,
Taylor,
good.
thank you for taking the time out of your day to join us. I know it's
Yeah, of course.
as of like recently, it's definitely been a productive couple weeks or 3-4 weeks since the Snyder Cut came out. How's the aftermath been for you?
I mean, you
Like
got a
how
lot
has
of
it been
people.
since the cut came out?
I don't know. I mean, I was so happy when the cut came out. I finally watched it. I got to see it early. Part of the they did the premiere a few days in advance, and then I watched the crap out of it.
Yep.
And then I think I watched it 2 or 3 times before it actually released because they're like, "Oh, you have access to it for the next like 48 hours." I'm like, "Okay,"
Right.
and I just watched it like 3 times in a row.
Yeah.
And then when it came out, I watched it again with my son, and
I'll have fun.
yeah, I mean, we loved it, and um, I was really happy to see everyone else love it too. It's kind of been unanimous. I mean, aside from the small minority of people who hated it before it came out and continue to hate it even after it came out, the praise around this project was just unanimous. It was everyone knew exactly what it was, and they knew exactly why it was better, and they loved it. So it was pretty cool.
Yeah, I couldn't agree more. So I think so. If you had to like maybe say what was the thing that you were most surprised like coming out of it the first time?
Let me see. The thing that surprised me most, um, I think it was still the stuff that was missing, um, because Zach had his plan, and then we all know that he wasn't allowed to film a good chunk of his plan, but he still filmed a lot of it anyways. But I
Right.
think it was something that was surprising to me was that a lot of the stuff that was talked about was planned still didn't make it. Like the warehouse scene with the I mean we saw all the 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 stunt team choreographing it, and we all kind of knew it was on the in the pipeline, but the fact that they still didn't let him do that was kind of a bummer because that would have been a cool scene.
Yeah.
But I think that was the only surprise I really had was how much that he wanted to do that he still didn't get a chance to do, and the Green Lantern stuff.
Right.
Which kind of
Yeah, the Green Lantern stuff hurt.
yeah, which kind of
But
like
I mean,
which kind of makes you think like if he couldn't do the Green Lantern stuff, for instance, the Green Lantern, word around the rumor mill is they said don't use that character because we're going to use them. If this was like I've heard you say it before, and many other people after you said it, but like if it was a one and done kind of deal, like or if they didn't have even a remote chance for maybe continuing it, like why would they really care at
oh,
the end of the
exactly.
day? And
It made no
I find
sense
that legit
to.
logical.
Yeah, I mean, especially with their big push to the multiverse, it made no sense to tell him, "Oh, you can't use this character because we're going to use it." But at the same time, they're okay with him using Ben Affleck as Batman when they have Robert Pattinson as Batman coming in the pipeline. So it's like, so
Right.
why was the issue, unless you guys just didn't want your version to overshadow their version?
Exactly.
And that's from one side of it. That's the only thing I could think of. But then again, you're toting the multiverse, but the Snyderverse is the only part of the multiverse they don't want, which I find weird. Like it just contradicts. They tend to. I feel like Warner Brothers. The only thing they're really consistent at is contradicting themselves
Oh yeah,
quite a bit. But I mean, overall, the movie has done pretty well amongst. Like I think Rotten Tomatoes, it still has like a pretty strong score. I haven't checked it in a while, but last time I saw it was like 70%, which would,
yeah.
I mean, that's like one of the highest rated Snyder films of all time, and I find
Oh
that
yeah.
just absolutely insane. I find that to be crazy. How, but Justice League was great, but like I couldn't believe that 70% is amongst his highest rated.
Mhm.
I was just like, people really just don't treat him well.
Not at all. I mean, he's probably one of the nicest guys in Hollywood, and I think they use that against him because he really just doesn't fight. He I remember stories with Man of Steel that when they kept giving him notes on what they didn't want him to do, Chris Nolan ended up fighting for him because he just really didn't want to fight, which was just crazy to me. And then when we talked to Deb, she basically described him as like the sweetest man ever, and he just doesn't have a mean streak and just doesn't like fighting people. Like he just lets it happen. He's the kind of guy that will I think there was a story that she told, I think the Nerd Queens maybe, that Zach is the kind of guy where if the gardener does a bad job, he'll go out and mow the lawn again and just not say anything, and then still have the gardener come back next week because he's just a nice person.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And that's incredible. I mean, I wanted to ask you because you kind of mentioned it. Obviously, it's illogical that WB and Warner Brothers don't want to. That's the only part of the multiverse they don't want to continue. They don't want to acknowledge. Do you think? Because I think a lot of people are wondering too. Do you think there's a lot of tension between HBO and AT&T as far as to continue this? Is
100%.
there? Okay, yeah. I think a lot of people
100%.
are wondering if it's just all Warner Brothers and AT&T across the board is just scrap it, especially with that trailer this week.
From my understanding, and I'll talk about that trailer in a second because I think a lot of people are misunderstanding what that trailer is actually doing.
Okay.
The HBO wanted to continue. They wanted to move forward. They had plans. They had handshakes. They had verbal agreements to move forward. And then Toby Emmerich became in charge of HBO Max's production, and a lot of that stuff went back to the pitch phase, which was unfortunate.
Right.
And then you have AT&T. They don't they're not going to pass up on the opportunity to make money. So when they see something's trending at $1.5 million, 1.5 million tweets, they're going to say, hey, maybe we should capitalize on this. And Jason Kilar is a businessman, same mentality. If the fans are this passionate, let's go forward.
Right.
And then you have just it's kind of just insane that Warner Brothers is so bullheaded that they just don't want to out of pride, because this whole project makes them look bad. Even if the people that are in charge now are not even the same people that were in charge when these decisions were made, it still makes them look bad as a studio.
Yeah, absolutely. And then it's so interesting to see too, because yesterday you see AT&T, tweet, yeah, we'd like to see the Ayer cut, and you're like, whoa.
Yeah,
everybody, you just feel like. Go ahead.
It doesn't.
Oh, go ahead.
It doesn't promote a it doesn't really show that they're on the same page as a company, and that kind of scares me at some points.
Well, I mean, Chris Terrio in his interview, when he just kind of ripped them to shreds, he talked about how one of the most frustrating moments of his interactions with them was when he went to a board investor meeting, and then random people at the board were starting dictating what they wanted in the film, and they were contradicting each other because it was their logic was, well, what if this guy has a grandson that likes this? You should do this. And it was there's no uniform decision. There's no trust in the studio. I personally think that if Warner Brothers had any business sense, they would let DC be their own studio and just reap the benefits from it, like Marvel has.
Yeah.
But I don't know.
I was just gonna say that. Yeah.
Yeah.
Now, do you think that could be?
Oh, go ahead.
I'm sorry.
Oh no, I was gonna ask him.
Do you think that could be?
Go ahead, Tyler.
No. All right. So do you think that could be beneficial to DC and to Warner Brothers? But who would you have a first pick to bring in to be the Kevin Feige? Because I feel like that's what a lot of people differ on, is who would you bring in to lead that charge? Because that job is really important in the sense that you're kind of, all right, I Kevin Feige has the whole vision, and then you bring certain directors in to fulfill small parts of it, but it has to be cohesive in the long run. I mean, it is a daunting task to create a coherent cinematic universe, and I just think that not a lot of people can do that job.
I mean, there's always those joking responses that are kind of like a half joke where you're like, oh, Deb Snyder would be perfect at this. I honestly would love that. She's fantastic. She's a sweetheart, and I could see her do the job very well. I also personally would be 100% cool with J.J. Abrams doing something like that, because whatever you feel about him as a director and a writer, the projects he produces are always top tier quality. So he does have a good sense for getting talent. So that would be a good thing. That'd be like a 5E level thing for me. But it's honestly one of those things where I think they need to be in that mindset before they can even speculate on who would run the show, because they still believe they can micromanage success.
Right. And that's a obviously interesting topic of debate too. Is like, I think so many people are like, no, we like what Snyder did. Don't do the Marvel formula. Do your own thing. But I want to kind of hear your take. Do you think it's like not necessarily copy Marvel's formula to a T or do all that, but do you think it's a bad thing to necessarily take pieces and parts of it and go that route? You get it, like you said, separate the studio and all that.
I honestly think that what Marvel has done was unprecedented, and it was kind of like a one-time absolute success. Like there was no way you can replicate that. And I mean, a lot of people think that I'm just a pure 100% blood DC fan. I love Marvel too. I don't like a lot of their decisions in their movies. I get mad at their decisions in some of their movies. Because and maybe it's like the gatekeeper inside me. I read Marvel comics as a kid. I love that stuff, and my favorite comics were always the X-Men and the Spider-Man, and I felt like they grossly mishandled Spider-Man in the MCU. And don't even get me started on how mad I am about the Alfred Molina stuff from yesterday, because that not only downplays every aspect of that character's arc in the Spider-Man 2, that it makes it almost not worth it. That by just like you have this character who redeems himself and is willing to sacrifice himself, and then now you're telling me that somehow his sacrifice is all a moot point because he's going to be coming back as a bad guy. Like I'm like, what the fuck?
Right, that whole thing is no one's dead in this universe. It's like, what is that?
And that's actually I did.
Go ahead.
I did want to bring that up a little later, because I think Austin told me last night, I hadn't even seen it, that Alfred Molina kind of gave it all away on like the multiverse aspect of it. Not that we didn't know it was coming, but I mean, they've been teasing the multiverse, like just the tip every here and there, and it never seems to happen. And then the finally, the way we get told is through like somewhat of a leak from a guy who, you wouldn't expect it to come from. Now all of a sudden it's like, this is how it's going to happen, just detailed.
Yeah, I mean, and there's been just a myriad of leaks for this project. I mean, you have the alleged leaked crew care package that they gave all the crew people that had the Amazing Spider-Man on the T-shirts that they gave the crew, which is like, oh, that's kind of cool. And then I have a buddy who works. I'm not gonna say where he works. He works for a team that cuts trailers for studios, and he said that 100% Tobey Maguire and Andrew Garfield are in this film, and he personally believes the rumors that it was because of like Spider-Man 4 he thinks that's nonsense. He thinks they just gave Tobey this massive payday to do this. So, but you have, I don't know. I feel like what Marvel is doing with their multiverse is kind of a weird angle of doing it, and I think DC has the ultimate opportunity to just let artists be as creative as they want without any interference. If they allow them to do that, they need to stop micromanaging and just letting it happen. I mean, Joker, for instance, was one of the biggest movies of the year. They didn't believe in it. They didn't think it was going to be successful. They even passed off like production and stake in benefits to another studio because they just didn't think it was going to work. And then they made $1 billion and they all look like idiots.
Right.
So
exactly.
Just let the artist be the artist, and if it works, it works. If it doesn't, it doesn't. But micromanaging does not work. And let the audience decide.
Yeah, I feel like we see that time and time again. Definitely a problem amongst studios. Is that's what I always found like difficult. Like if I was a chef, right, and you hired me to come in and do a job, cook a meal for, 700 people, and then, you hired me, but you don't actually let me cook. Like, then why'd you actually hire me? Like, why don't you just do it yourself if you're gonna micromanage me the whole time? And that's the way I've always like seen this, is like, they hire these great directors who
chef, and then they turn you into a sous chef. Like, what the fuck is that? Like,
yes,
no. So
yes,
it's
exactly,
insane.
So I mean, the trailer that HBO dropped definitely pissed some people off. They straight up used the words completion, and I think that's what really. And then they called it a trilogy, which have also been like aggravating people when they call it that, knowing damn well that we know it's not supposed to be just a trilogy.
Well, even then.
So what's that? What's
the
going
word
on there?
trilogy doesn't mean like a completed story. Like, it just means 3 films. I mean, you have the Indiana Jones trilogy, and you've also got Indiana Jones 4 and 5. You have the first 3 Fast and the Furious movies as a trilogy, and then you have the other like 7, and then you have even the latest movie when they said, I think Vin Diesel, I think, recently just said, he said that his next movie is going to be the end of the family trilogy part of the Fast and Furious franchise, which is like 8, 9, and 10 is what they're essentially saying. So it's like, you don't need to, like, I think people just don't understand that trilogy does not mean a finite end of story. It just means 3 stories that are cohesive.
I mean, even Star Wars. I mean, come on, this is the most obvious. Star Wars is
Wars
it's a saga, but it's 3 separate trilogies.
Exactly, yeah. And then, I mean, even with the Marvel, like, you have the Iron Man trilogy, which is not. Then you have the Captain America trilogy,
MCU entirety, yeah.
Like, these are small cogs in the giant machine, but they're still individual trilogies because they're individual stories that are being told. And what Zach essentially is doing, I mean, what this essentially, from what I gathered from the trailer, was that it wasn't saying that this is the end, this is it, this is over. This was the initial trilogy that Zach wanted, that here we have now. And if they do anything else after that, that will be a continuation of the story, but it doesn't negate the fact that this is the first trilogy. And then you've also got the fact that Wonder Woman and like Suicide Squad also fit into these canon, but they're not part of the trilogy because this is the Zack Snyder trilogy.
Right.
So I think people they took it for what it was, and just like they got mad because they thought they saw it as something that it wasn't actually. To me, it was just HBO releasing a video saying, "Hey, nowhere else on streaming or the internet you have access to these 3 movies, so come watch them here."
Right.
Like, it was just marketing.
But do you think it was? Do you think maybe someone should have, like, from HBO or Warner Brothers or wherever, should have been like, "Hey guys, maybe let's not use these words."
I think somebody in the end was like, "Hey, phrasing didn't work here," but I don't think that. I don't know. I mean, I'm reading the comments right now, and even people are saying, like, "Yeah, the Lord of the Rings trilogy is its own trilogy, but it's also a continuation of the Hobbit." So
exactly.
Which, in the same sense, if you read the Lord of the Rings books, essentially the exact same story as the Hobbit, just from a different point of view.
Yeah.
Like, Tolkien was really good about kind of reiterating the same story again and again and again in his project, which, for people who read the books, even the Scourging of the Shire chapter is 100% a retelling of the entire Lord of the Rings book in like 1 chapter.
Right.
So I think people just need to understand that, yeah, I mean, phrasing is important, and I think they kind of botched the phrasing there, but I don't think for a second that it was meant to be them saying, "Fuck the fans, we're done." So.
And then, of course, everybody's, all the fans are on edge because we all want more, so they're taking that as like, oh my God, freaking out, which I understand. We all want more, but like you said, it's I think everybody just kind of like overread. They didn't see or understand that part of it, like this is that trilogy, and that's supposed to be the way that it is.
Yeah. I mean, even Zach's initial plan, he had a Justice League trilogy planned on top of his other projects. So this was just the initial Superman's origin trilogy. And that's all it was that this was Superman's starting. This was him becoming Superman, dying, and being reborn, and then leading the Justice League. This was the origin trilogy, essentially.
Right.
And
Right.
then you have the Justice League trilogy, which is essentially like Superman becoming the Superman that we know in the comics, and you have Batman's trilogy within that, where he is fallen from grace and then redeeming himself and then making the ultimate sacrifice to save the world,
Right.
and kind of bringing that full circle. You have Wonder Woman's trilogy, you have Aquaman's. Like each character had their own story arc, and you can consider those trilogies within these projects because they were always meant to be like smaller stories within a bigger story.
Right. I think everybody, like, obviously when those boards and stuff came out, that was another thing too. I think everybody freaked out about, like, oh, spoilers, but that was something that was written back in, like, what, 2014 or 15? Those boards.
Sorry, I was getting a text from Matt. He was
Oh,
asking
you're
me
good.
about something.
You're good. The boards that are up in Texas.
Yeah.
All that story that people thought, oh my gosh, he's giving away the rest of it, but that was what? Okay, that was the pitch.
That was just the pitch.
Got it.
It's very much, and mind you, a lot of people like gave me shit and TCN as a whole shit for the fact that we leaked one of those pictures from the boards, and then when Zach shows all the boards, they're like, "Oh, it's awesome because Zach did it." But
I didn't know that you guys got okay. Wow.
Because I actually had someone who had access to those boards, and I got a summary of the Justice League board that because the board that they showed in sorry, he is just blowing up. The Justice League board that was shown in the Texas thing was only the last panel. He didn't show the whole thing because he didn't want to give away the movie that was
How you doing?
a couple days. There was boards for Man of Steel and BVS. There were boards for all that stuff.
Right.
Hold on, Matt's blowing up my phone about something. So, anyways, but no, it was always kind of funny to me that we could do one thing and get stigmatized for it, and then other people could do it and get praised for it. But aside from that, that was Zach's initial pitch. He had worked with Jim Lee and Jeff Johns on presenting that pitch, and that's where those boards came from. And then after the filming happened, he made new boards for what he was planning on doing from here on out. And he said that he's not releasing those boards because on the chance that they do continue, he doesn't want to spoil the project. Mm-hmm. So there are more boards. So
yeah. And now, do you think, well, I just want to hear your opinion straight up. Do you think the Snyderverse is going to happen?
I personally do.
Okay.
I think, the fact that they had planned it before Toby Emmerich kind of squashed those plans and kind of said, no, let's repitch it after the movie comes out. Like, they had done a lot of groundwork. They had done a lot of planning. They had done a lot of preparation so they could do it. And now you've got other outlets essentially saying the exact same thing we said a year ago, so it's either, and I've said it before, it's either these people are copying us or the likely matter, they don't know who we are, and their sources are saying the same thing that we got last year. So I do think that there's a lot of like people out there that are now talking about it. And I definitely think that in some capacity it's going to continue. We have even the tone is changing from some of these conversations. Ray Fisher months ago said he was not going to be in the Flash because they don't want him, and now his most recent interview like a week ago said, hey, maybe we can work this out and I might be in the thing. Like, you're seeing, if you're reading between the lines, you're seeing kind of a shift in the narrative as the people who are now bitching saying it's all over are only the ones doing it, and the actual press, the actual details that are coming out are not alluding to that same fact. So I definitely think in some capacity it will continue, and I think that you can't ignore the fans long enough to they think they can ignore the fans, which is fine. Yeah. But the moment Zach says I'm done, you'll see a mass exodus from HBO Max, and they'll see that it's going to hurt their wallets. And
agreed.
I've already talked to some people, some people who are actually production team, like people who worked as cameramen and actual set photographers saying that after the movie comes out on 4K, they're just going to cancel their HBO Max subscription until
Right.
Warner Brothers gets their head out of their ass. So you have
Right.
cast and crew already planning to boycott, which is kind of amazing. But it's I think they realize that, and I think they know that if they do continue to ignore fans, it's going to get worse because they ignored us for years, and now we have the Snyder Cut because they stopped ignoring us.
Right. And that was my second question, because you mentioned obviously I'm with you. I so hope, and I want to see it continue. But you mentioned continue in some capacity. Do you think that, if it wasn't going to be another film on HBO Max or series or whatever, I mean, I think it would be idiotic of them to not do, I don't know, a comic, an animation, something that, because there's so much meat there, there's so much story. So do you think fans would be accepted of something like that?
No, not at all.
No,
I don't think fans would accept a comic.
Okay.
I think the last thing that I heard was that they're talking about doing it as a show.
Okay.
And that way they can control budget better. And that would make more sense to me for HBO. It makes more sense from a marketing standpoint. It makes more sense pretty much in every regard, that if you do Zach's continuation as a show where you get episodes weekly, then you're going to kind of lock these people in and hook them in.
Yeah.
So, and we have a guest.
Oh, what's up?
What's up, guys?
Hello, Matt. Nothing much.
What's up, man?
Haven't seen you in a while.
I know
This
you
is like
can't see
when
me now.
Ryan will pop in on our streams just unannounced.
You
Like,
can't
I'm
see
watching
me
the
either.
show, I'm coming in.
Right.
Oh, I love Ryan though. Ryan's great. Ryan will always get a link, no matter what the day is. But yeah, I was just listening and texting Taylor. Then Taylor's like, "I'm on a show," so he passed the link through, and I got some time right now. I can't stay long. I'm doing a bunch of stuff right now, but yeah, I thought I'd say hi, support the show. I like Pop Culture Corner. I think it's fun, and Taylor's a cool guy from time to time.
Nice.
I do miss you. I miss you, Matt. I miss you being on the LightCast.
Yeah. I get,
Yeah. Josh is doing all right, though.
Oh yeah, Josh is great. Josh is amazing.
Josh is doing pretty well. Yeah.
Yeah, Josh is doing a lot of stuff right now. He's really busy this week. That's kind of why he's doing a show today. He's going to be doing a Let's Talk today. So I think Taylor's going to be on that one tonight with him. But he's catching up with some stuff. But he's going to have a show tonight, which would be kind of cool. I know a lot of people are asking questions and things like that.
Yeah, I kind of honestly, when I talked to Taylor about doing this today, I kind of forgot JusticeCon was today as well. If I had remembered that, maybe I would have been like, yeah, maybe we do it next Saturday or something. But it's whatever. Things happen. But I mean, so they've already had on, what is it, Ray Fisher and Ray Porter, I believe, were in the first couple. And then
they've had Ray Porter.
They have
Ray Porter, yeah. Ray Fisher's going on right now.
But I thought
Ray Fisher, I think, just started.
Okay.
Cool.
Yeah,
and then I thought that was cool that Dave, was it did I see that Dave Bautista is going to be there, or was that someone just telling me that?
He's supposed to be there tomorrow.
Tomorrow.
Is it tomorrow or just later today? I think he's going to be
promoting
Army of the Dead.
Yeah, tomorrow's Army of the Dead. Today's
which
Justice League.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. Yeah. I think they're doing great things with that, and I'm really excited for them being able to continue it this year, and then I think it's going to expand and do a little bit more of that. So hopefully we get some cool little tidbits out of it today, like little notes of maybe during production, or maybe another look at Army of the Dead in a small capacity tomorrow. But it is what it is.
Yeah.
But so Matt, what have you been? So you guys have been, just to talk about you guys, like your show, LightCast, for a second. You guys have expanded it to multiple shows. are you guys looking like create a network of different shows?
Yeah, we actually have another show coming. We haven't announced it, but I think people kind of figured it out. It's a show that Taylor and the team over at the Cultured Nerd are working really hard on. I think it's be very different than what people have really kind of imagined from these types of shows. Is we're kind of in a way taking what the Cultured Nerd does and what they do on their website, and we're going to start implementing it into quick 5-10 minute episodes that drop fast information and just quick updates for a lot of people, because I know that a lot of people want updates for past articles or where did those go. They're basically going to be doing, things that they don't write articles about, but they have updates on. They're going to start dropping them on that show. So they're going to be quick insert videos that play throughout the week whenever they have an update.
Very cool.
That's actually a really good idea. No, but I think you guys are doing cool stuff, and I always enjoy watching. But like I said, I feel like that's when I head over and I'm like, Matt's not there. I feel like I'm missing a piece of me, like when I watch it. But it's getting there. Josh is doing a really good job, and I'm really proud of him.
Yeah,
So,
man. I think it's going to be good. I think you guys were talking about Restore the Snyderverse, right?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Yeah. So I was gonna ask you, what are your thoughts on like the chances that we get Justice League 2 and 3 and more of it in the future? I know Sean O'Connell got some shit about what he said about aren't they kind of continuing it? Like I think he's just looking for the bright side of it in a way. But people like gave him shit. It was like, no, that's not continuing it by doing Aquaman 2, The Flash, and even though the characters might still be in the universe, that's not the Snyderverse proper.
Mm-hmm.
And until that happens, I don't think the Snyder Cut fandom will be happy. So what's the road ahead for everyone? Like, what's going on in the future?
I mean, whatever Taylor said, it was completely wrong. No, I'm just kidding. I'm joking. I love Taylor. No, I mean, Taylor pretty much, I think I was listening to a little bit of what Taylor was saying and how, it's moving forward, but it's moving forward at a pace that I think fans are not comfortable with. They like fast, immediate, remedial, response, and they need to be a little bit more, patient and yeah, of course, keep supporting. I love the 1.5 million tweets, and no studio, no matter who you are, is going to ignore that voice. And at the same time, they already have these things in place. A lot of these things were talked about prior, because they knew prior that if they're going to bring back Zack Snyder's Justice League, they knew what was coming. They knew what fans were going to want to see. They knew that like I think Taylor mentioned it, you guys were talking about Green Lantern, like not wanting to put Green Lantern in the film because they want to show their Green Lantern first. It's those types of things. It's like, we want to be the showcase, and you can be the the thing on HBO Max that people can watch. We want to drive ticket sales. A lot of this is derivative to profit. There has to be some profit at the end, but I think overall, hearing what Sean O'Connell has been saying, and give it, he can have his opinion, he can have his voice, but I think the way he goes about it is probably not the smartest decision, that he did it in that manner, and I could see why fans are kind of resenting him. We respect the guy. We respect the guy a lot with the things he's done, but I think at the end of the day, the way that you put yourself out there like that to kind of convince fans to stop doing something and supporting something kind of goes against, what, I hate to use the word fandom. I never like to use it, but to go against a fan group, of that nature kind of isn't the right move, because, that's your profit, that's your capital investment. If you want views or something, you don't go against the group, you don't go against the herd, you kind of go with it sometimes. And Zack Snyder's Justice League, I think what I loved the most about it was there was an article about, and Zack talked about it with Grace Randolph, which was the gatekeeping, this is
Right.
pretty much what we're seeing now is gatekeepers are falling apart. They're getting upset because that fan base, they're going to have to go with it or get hit in the train. I think that's one of the cases where Sean O'Connell stepped in front of the train and got hit by it. You know what I mean? And a lot of people are getting hit by the train, and it's kind of one of those just let it go or jump on board type of thing now.
Right.
Yeah.
And somebody mentioned in the chat that and we kind of talked about it earlier. AT&T tweets the contradictions of AT&T and Warner Brothers. AT&T tweets yesterday the release of the Ayer cut and all that type of stuff. So do you think if like fans continue even like on the push of release the Ayer cut, it's going to continue to help like the Justice League and restore the Snyderverse stuff?
Yeah, I do. I think the reason fans got the Snyder Cut was persistence and faith and essentially holding the studio accountable. And if we just give up right now, it's kind of a moot point.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, how long did the fans fight? And they fought for years. We got it. Yeah. Now fans are saying after 6 weeks, the fight's not good enough anymore.
Right.
Like, for me, I don't like appeasing instant gratification. I think people who demand response today, they don't understand how it actually works. But then again, this is also the social media, the TikTok generation, the people that have shorter attention spans and want more instant gratification. They want more instant news. They want headlines. They don't want articles. So, unfortunately, that's kind of just the territory.
But also on the other side of the coin, because do you think we could wait another 4 years to 4 or 5 years before, these actors are long moved on, or, maybe they look a lot older? Like, do you think, because, I mean, if we don't get it sooner than later, we're going to start pushing more lines than maybe, you would if you had thought about it sooner or tried it sooner.
Yeah, I get what you're saying. I totally get it. I think that's the perception of people's anxiety that kind of drives their emotions, because a lot of people respond on Twitter through emotional based responses rather than rational thinking responses. A business such as a studio business, people think that like actors and things like that, like, when I was there for, the time I was doing projects and things and being part of productions, it was like one day I'm working on this project and then by next week I'm working on another project. And I won't be able to see these projects until another year. You know what I mean? Like, they shoot these in advance, and they hold on to them. They find the best time to market them. Actors, they constantly are working on projects. Some actors will work on a full-length film in about 2 months and be done with their portion. They don't have to be back because it's better for scheduling reasons. Sometimes, they can do their part and be done. I mean, people that don't have access to know how the film studios work or how production works are now getting a glimpse into this world. And it's great because people like Zack Snyder are showing them, like, this is how much work it takes to do these things. And it shows how long they've been planning. Like, Zack's had these storyboards since like 2013, 2014, and he's been planning this all along, and now, he's adopted those storyboards to be more current with what he's doing. And those things are done too, like these things were completed years before Zack Snyder's Justice League was even finished, and they still tweak and change things just because they're not putting it out there. Fans sometimes need to kind of relax and trust in what these creators and filmmakers are doing. But I think at the end of the day, like, they're not going to wait until Ben Affleck's like 90 years old, right, and get suited up again like Michael Keaton's doing. I love Michael Keaton. I love Michael Keaton, but they're not waiting that long to do that, and we're going to be hearing more and more information move forward as things kind of progress, I guess, so we can say. It's great to see the release the Ayer cut, fans have like really pushed yesterday. I was getting notifications left and right. And I was like, wow, this is amazing. And then David Ayer drops a a black and white image from, the cut.
The final
and
battle,
it's like,
yeah.
and it shows Diablo alive and well again. And it's like, guys, the cut is real. It's sitting right there. So
Yeah. That's another thing too. You said as time goes on, we're probably going to hear more and stuff. Next week, there's that AT&T call. Do you guys think we're going to get anything? And if so, what do you think we're going to get from that? Because I think fans are expecting that's the place. If anything, they're going to get this announcement of restore the Snyderverse.
I personally don't think we will get a lot because AT&T's investor meetings are nothing like the way Disney does theirs, where they just walk out and say, "This is what we're doing." Like,
right.
They're expecting like some Comic-Con
Right,
all H moment, and that's not what these investor meetings are. These are just like rundowns of profits, and that's about it.
Okay.
This is not meant to be anything more than just a, by the way, your money's still in good hands, continue to invest.
Right.
So anyone who's trying to spread that information saying that if you don't hear it, then we failed, I wouldn't take that person seriously because they probably don't know how these meetings actually go. For instance, the GameStop meeting that just happened a few weeks ago.
Right.
It was an hour long. Not once did they even talk about the crazy spike in the stocks. They just kind of were like, yeah, our quarter sales still suck, and we're going to close some more places down, and that's about it, guys. It wasn't anything about how like their stock was making people thousands of dollars, and some investors made millions of dollars off the stock boom. They didn't talk about that at all, but that was current information. They just went by the cold hard facts of where the money is actually going.
Right.
Okay. And
so do you go ahead?
I said okay, and so basically what you're saying is the AT&T investors call is nothing like Disney. So if nothing does come out of it, don't be discouraged by it, but
Not at all, no.
Keep your ear to the ground and keep pounding, pounding away at Warner Media that you're interested in the Snyderverse continuing.
Yeah, I mean, think of it this way. I mean, back when Zach had his first meeting with Warner Brothers about making this film happen, there were articles that same week that the project didn't exist. Like, just because there's something happening in the background and they're actually having these conversations doesn't mean the general public are privy to that information.
Right.
So,
absolutely, yeah. So, okay, do you think we'll get any numbers then? At least that something like that is to...
Honestly, I hope so. I think the fact that
hell no.
To me, the fact that they haven't given
no.
numbers yet is very telling that they haven't decided what to do yet.
Yeah.
If they were like, we got numbers for what, the Nevers, just like after like the first day of streaming.
Yeah. The next day they were like.
But at the same time, we already know the drama behind that project. We know that Joss Whedon was canned, and this project is likely not going to move forward with a second season because of Joss Whedon. So they had no reason to not show those numbers. Like, oh yeah, it did pretty cool, and they just like move on. It wasn't meant to be like, like it's not like Zack Snyder's Justice League where it literally crashed servers and caused issues for hours and for days, and they realistically they didn't know they were going to have that level of reaction. So clearly, by not showing anything, they're still deciding what to do.
Yeah.
They're not being naive not to show, and I think people have that misconception, and again, it goes back to that anxiety of the fan, right? Because a lot of fans, they don't care about the logistics and the semantics and what's going on behind the scenes. They just want to know, like, hey, and you keep a fan in the dark, especially people that aren't familiar with how it works. They're going to be a little bit more anxious and responsive. They're going to respond very aggressive or very direct, and sometimes we just need to be a little bit more, not, I wouldn't say patient, but it seems to be the only course of action is just be patient, be friendly, keep tweeting your support, keep watching the film. Don't unsubscribe to HBO Max because you didn't get a response. To me, I find that to be a childish response. I'm like, oh, mom didn't, fucking, I cleaned my room and now I can't go out to play. Well, fuck it. I'm not going to clean my room now. I'm going to make it a mess. Like, that's what you're ultimately doing. You're showing, not as a fan, but you're just showing it as a person. Like, damn, bro, that's pretty entitled. And things are happening. Just because they're not saying it or vocalizing it doesn't mean that they're not happening. Things are happening.
Yeah, and at the end of the day, watch Zack Snyder's Vero. He has not said he is done. He has not
Right.
said to unsubscribe. He's telling people not to unsubscribe.
Right.
So until Zack gives fans a reason not to have hope, you need to stop being so emotional. Like Zack is giving fans, he's giving them as much as he can give them while these conversations are still happening. If they're like, oh, I'm going to lose hope. And he's like, don't. That should be your answer.
Right. You see on his Vero, he goes, keep pushing, keep tweeting and all that. Yeah.
I mean, and then you have to watch people from like TPZ, right? I mean, David Avery, Ohio Dave, the other day when he said, this is the moment, make your voice be heard. Why would he say that? Why would he, someone who talks to Zack, tell people to make a loud noise, unless, of course, the noise is what's being paid attention to during these meetings?
Yeah,
like
exactly.
People just need to kind of like take a step back, put the emotions aside for a second, and look at the actual facts. Yes, the studio is being a little dickish. They're being not transparent whatsoever, but that's kind of how studios are. But Zack is not throwing in the towel. He's never once indicated he's throwing in the towel, and he's telling people to still have hope.
Yeah.
So let's have hope. I don't see how that's a hard thing.
AT&T responded to a release air, like they see the traction. They saw the traction of the bat. I think one of the things that bugs me is that, you know, Batfleck gets its day, right? Batfleck, you make the Batfleck movie HBO Max or whatever, and then it was Deathstroke HBO Max, and they're being highlighted. And then, you know, for me, it's all about not trying to upset or trying to change opinion for clicks or views. I was never about that. I'm never about that. I actually am against it. Because what it does is it ignites fans to emotionally be responsive to the information, right? So you're using a little bit of, you know, their pathological insights to drive their emotions to click, view. Oh, now the story changes. Fuck that. You're a liar. You know, this. And it's like,
Okay.
you know, sometimes we have to look at where this information comes from. It was great to read the Guardian article. I think I retweeted it for, you know, LightCast. I think we retweeted it a couple times. And that article right there is pretty much, you know, painting a picture for people. If you know how to read that article, it's pretty much painting a very I don't want to say something that gets Taylor. It's painting a very imaginative picture for what's happening for people that has been happening since last year, right? And it's in that article, and now you can see the ambulance chasers coming out to jump on that now, because it is a very, if people are smart, and a lot of these bloggers are smart, they just know how to use information to kind of drive their own traffic, then that's what they're doing, you know, and they're going to profit off of it as much as they possibly can. And fans should be smart enough to read these articles and be like, I see what's going on here.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah, I like how Twitter will now remind you, like, hey, you didn't read this article before you're going to retweet it. You should probably do your research. I thought that was funny the other day because it made me think, like, it just made me think in the grand scheme of things, like how many people like really don't know what they're maybe retweeting or promoting when they are doing it. It's they read like the headline of it and then just, well, that sounds good to me. Click.
Yeah.
So the Snyder, okay, this is like the devil's advocate, like playing that hand of it. Do you think it's a bad thing for Warner Brothers to just kind of like want to move on and maybe do their own thing? Like, is that really a bad thing? Like, are we, is it have to be all or none, or can we all, you know, enjoy what they maybe have on the slate? The Robert Pattinson Batman, the Flash movie, like part of me wants to let Zack just go do other things.
I do. I understand that sentiment.
If that makes sense.
I do kind of agree.
Like, do we need I know I would love the Snyder Cut to be, like, the Snyder verse to be restored, but if it doesn't happen, like, do we still like DC? Do we still watch their movies? Do we still enjoy their movies? Is that something to be ashamed of?
I think it comes down to the individual person. If you can find enjoyment in other projects and still like, it's like I personally was kind of on the upset side when Ben left the project for the Batman, but everything I've heard about the Batman, I'm excited as hell for it. I don't care that it's not connected. I don't care that it's its own thing. Literally every detail I've heard about this project makes me want this project tomorrow.
Yeah.
So if we don't get the Snyder Cut, we don't get the Snyderverse, yeah, I'll be upset, I'll be annoyed, whatever. But those are my emotional reactions. I'm not going to write someone off because I'm not getting my way. Maybe it's just the fact that I'm not like 10 years old. I don't know.
Right.
For me, it's like I understand that fans want it this way and they want to speak with put their money where their mouth is. I'm down for that. Like that's cool. If the only aspect of DC you like is the Snyderverse, then yes, fight to tooth and nail, never give up, 100%.
Right.
But you also have to look pragmatically that if on the off chance the studio is just so stubborn that they won't do anything, it's kind of one of those like stages of grief. I mean, at one point you're going to have to get to the stage of acceptance, and I don't know, but I'm not saying that as like I've gone to that stage. Like I 100% believe that this project is moving forward. I'm going to fight for it because I believe it's happening.
Right.
And quite literally, everyone I've talked to behind the scenes still says that these conversations are still happening. I have not been told the conversations are done and to move on, so I'm going to keep fighting.
Yeah. Before, obviously, as we're coming kind of closer to the end here, I wanted to ask you, too, something that was really interesting to me, and we talked about it earlier. You talked like Zach's the nicest person, in Hollywood, and he's like, you talked about that gardener. He's that type of person. You have the gardener. I think this whole time, me and I think a lot of people, right, we kind of want him to know, to be a little bit more, direct. Like, yeah, that version sucks. It's terrible, and all that. And I think earlier this week, he finally said something about Army of the Dead, that we're not seeing a bastardized version of Army of the Dead. We're seeing the full. So after all that time, Zach is such a professional. And such a gentleman that's the most he's said of that cut and all. What did you guys think and kind of, how do you guys think his response to all this has been?
For the people that I know that know him, they all say yes, he's the wonderful person. He's like the sweetest man ever. Like, but he does get mad, and I think I remember distinctly talking to someone who was in his camp the day that the Snyder Cut leaked on Tom and Jerry for that like 2-hour span. And his response was like, okay, that sucks. Let's move on. Let's fight the good fight. But I heard that privately he was just fucking livid. Like he was just so mad. And but this is Zach's professionalism. He's not going to be the asshole. He's not going to be that person because that's not how he is. That's not him as a person. He wasn't raised to be outspoken and like a giant dickhole to people. Like he was raised to show people with the respect that he wants. So I believe wholeheartedly that he's kind of like what David Ayer said. He plays the good soldier when he has to, but he does fight his battles when he needs to.
Yeah. And I think that Zach is that very poised and very rational thinking individual, and he shows it. When he's happy, he's happy. When he's not happy, but he's in a place, he'll show it. And he is a creator, and his job as a creator, now running a studio, or not a studio, a production company, like Cruel and Unusual Films, but now expanding farther into the animation world. It's great to see him working with Netflix with Army of the Dead and the Army of the Dead universe, which a lot of people, again, I think I made this clear, he can work with HBO Max, and it's okay if Warner Brothers wants to go and do their own thing and make their own films and be standalone DC properties. I still love that idea. And if they continue doing that route, they'll make a lot of money. It's profitable. I think Todd Phillips made it clear. Black label films, will profit. And if they do them right and they let the creators do them. But you can have this universe be still built within a multiversal world is the direction that they're going. That can still be profitable as well. But they need to cut the people out that are making it toxic. And that is the hardest thing to do. You cannot shave the toxicity without a lot of fight back. They're going to fight back as hard as they possibly can to still be attached in whatever capacity. But you're going to have to, it's okay if Zach doesn't make it onto the screen with Warner Brothers, and I don't think he cares. I think that regardless, he just wants his story out there, and he'll do it anywhere. So
yeah,
I mean, take for instance Army of the Dead, right? Back when Army of the Dead was under Warner Brothers, and it was not being directed by him; it was being directed by another fellow, and Zach was producing it, and he was helping craft the story. A very different story. That story involved a main character trying to rescue his daughter. And then the discovery that zombies were smart, which is kind of what we're getting in this movie, but they were also impregnating normal people to make hybrids. And like, it was a really crazy story.
Right.
And I don't believe that that's what we're getting at all, because that was very much a very different version of the story that the studio was pushing. And now that he went to Netflix and is controlling it from the ground up, now we've got zombie tigers, and I couldn't be more excited.
Right. Yeah, zombie tigers.
Zombie tiger, right?
Dude, that's gonna be epic. I think that's, and you mentioned it. I think that's what people I think are kind of worried about. Is like, oh, if he's gonna do Army of the Dead, then he can't do, the other stuff. But I think like you said, it's totally possible, especially at HBO Max.
Well, I mean, he's got other people that work for his studio. There was a team in Germany that shot a prequel to Army of the Dead. And they did the animation, Army of Thieves, there it is. And, Las Vegas, the Army of the Dead animated show that's coming out. I mean, he's got a whole world that he's doing with Netflix, but he's also a director and a creator as well. And he will go anywhere, essentially, who wants to see his work. And, Warner Brothers is not, they're not naive that he makes money. And HBO Max and Jason Kilar and Boys and all them, they understand that he's a prophet. Like, he is an economy that we need to keep close. Because if we lose him to another studio like Paramount or, one of those other big ones, it's that's going to be a big loss for them, and they can't afford losses right now. They need profit. They need content on that new streaming service. So,
like, for instance, here's an example. J.J. Abrams currently has 59 upcoming projects that are in active or pre-production.
Yeah.
Just because you're doing one thing doesn't mean you can't do 58 other things.
Right.
I think people need to realize that, yes, these are people. They are just one person, but they do have production teams. They have production partners. They have projects that they're handing off to other people. They have writers that work under. And they can multitask because that's the job. So, all 59 of these projects that J.J. Abrams attached to does not have him listed as director for any single one of them. He's producing and executive producing all of them, which means he can still direct a handful of things on top of it. So, just because Zach is doing one thing for Netflix doesn't mean he can't do other things for someone else. Because according to what I'm seeing here on J.J. Abrams, I'm quite literally seeing Paramount, Paramount, HBO, Warner Brothers, Paramount.
Jeez.
He's doing projects for multiple studios at the same time.
Yeah.
He did a Disney one. To only work in one studio is not good diversification as a director or producer. Like, that runs your own studio. That's why a lot of these people make their own production studios, like Stone Quarry or Bad Robot, or I think Band Apart, who I think that's Quentin Tarantino. So they all run their own production studios that attach themselves to other productions and produce other films. Quentin Tarantino, he produced he presented Hostel, right? And they made a whole Hostel series. And it's like, Robert Rodriguez and his team, produce other projects, but he still directs the project. He worked with James Cameron on Alita, so it's like
exactly.
They need to diversify in some fashion, and people need to see that. But I do got to bounce. It was a pleasure, Taylor. It's always fun to see you. I'll come over by later tonight, and we'll hang out and get drunk off Kool-Aid and stuff. Much love.
I still think fun story. The other day, Matt was calling me, and I was driving home from work, and his fiance, I can hear her in the background saying, "Who the fuck are you talking to again? Why are you cheating on me?" And she's like, "Who are you talking to?" And he's like, "Oh, it's this person's named Taylor." And she's like, "That's a girl's name." And he's like, "Well, he's 220 pounds and 6'1". So I don't think it's a girl.
Gosh.
But it was such
right.
like the Allstate commercial. It's like, well, he's wearing khakis.
yeah. That's too funny. Well, yeah, guys, thank you so much for coming on, Taylor, and surprising us. It's a pleasure talking to you and meeting you.
Well, thank you, Matt, for stopping by. I know you didn't have to, so taking time out of your day, I really do appreciate it, and I appreciate you guys bearing with me. I had a rough day. My sister was supposed to be transparent with you. My sister was supposed to send a check for my mother's remains, and I ended up having to kind of go do that last minute. So not what I envisioned today looking like, but I do appreciate you stopping by.
Yeah, man, much love. I hope everything goes well with family situations, things you're dealing with, and you have everybody here. You have our support, and just take some time for yourself if you need it too. But it's a pleasure, Taylor. I'll talk to you later, man. I know that
sure.
we're gonna be. I almost done with Spider-Man. I think I've like one last section of the game, but I'll tell you when I'm done with it. But all right, guys, much love.
Are you talking about Miles Morales?
Yeah.
Yeah. The ending wrecked me, so be ready.
Is it gonna be one of those? Because I went through it really quick, man. Like I went through it really, really fast.
There's one line at the end of the film, at the end of the game, where he's given a choice, and one line happens, and I'm like, oh fuck, tears. Like it just
right.
Hard.
All right.
Hard
because
tears.
I'm not getting any tears from this game so far. But
I know. I was like that too. I'm like, oh, this is fine. This is okay. And then that happened. And I'm like, oh, I was not ready for that. That was like out of left field. That hit me hard.
Yeah, but this is definitely Tom Holland's Spider-Man for sure. So it definitely is. But all right, guys.
All right, man. So we have a couple minutes left. I won't keep you too long, Taylor. I know we all have things to do today. But I just want to get your views on a couple different things. While now everyone can see me. That was by far the worst, the worst scenario possible.
Yeah, I heard a train station. I heard people shouting in the streets. So clearly, an Uber.
I think there was a bomb. No.
Yeah. Well. The original Uber, he had to drop me off. Like it was the wrong destination or something like that. So then I was like sitting at the train station, and I was like, I'll just take the train. And just a wonderful day in the city. Just a wonderful day in the city. Those are the good times.
Yeah.
But so the upcoming slate. So we have the Flash movie. Do you think that Warner Brothers is using this to reshape their universe in the way they can kind of erase the Snyder Cut verse, the universe?
I don't think so. I think because there's a lot of people worried about that they're because the term Flashpoint keeps coming up. And
right.
That's not what this is. People even the director said it's Flashpoint inspired, but it's not Flashpoint. He's not going to go back in time and try to bring his mom back to life and then all of a sudden end up in an alternate timeline. That's not what this movie is. This movie, he's going to punch a hole through the multiverse and get lost in the multiverse. So where he came from still exists, where he's going still exists, and all the other branches of the multiverse still exist. But at the end, wherever he ends up, whether it be like a new timeline with new aspects of different universes, that's entirely up to the director and what they want to move forward with. But what I see this project being is them trying to recanonize old projects into the current canon to show people that, yes, if you like Christopher Reeve, he still can be your Superman because he still exists in that universe.
Right.
It's kind of like the Crisis on Infinite Earths CW project, where they teased everything,
Literally.
and all it was doing was like, yes, the CW verse is canon, but so is Batman '89
and Smallville.
Smallville. So is they didn't say that nothing that came before was not void. It was null and void. They were just saying everything is still on the table because everything is fine. And then they even had Ezra Miller pop in, and canonizing the Snyderverse, or at least some capacity of the Snyderverse,
right,
to the main overall canon. So, I don't think that. I mean, yeah, we all like to make Warner Brothers look out to be like the big bad guy. They're really dumb sometimes, and that's fine. I mean, the human factor of any studio is the dumb part because that's what it is. But just because individuals are being stupid doesn't mean that as a whole everyone is stupid. And I think that what worked on the CW is kind of what they're doing here too. Because I mean, I was even told from the beginning that the Crisis, that everything the CW does is essentially trial run for future films because they want to see if the audience will like it. So I could see in 10 years seeing a Crisis movie. I could see that happen.
The CW version on a bigger scale.
Yeah, and just like, oh, here's Grant Gustin, here's these characters, and also here's Henry Cavill. Like I could see them do that eventually, because they know that would be the only way to really match what Endgame did. Would be like, oh, by the way, CGI Christopher Reeve.
Yeah.
So I could see them eventually do that one day. Doesn't mean they're saying it right now. No, purely speculation. But I believe that as dumb as the studio can be at times, that they're not going to like wipe everything under the rug and just alienate a good majority of their fan base.
Yeah.
I think they're trying to find a happy middle where they can still do things. And like Matt said, the best way to do that is to get rid of some of these gatekeepers that don't see the bigger picture.
Mm-hmm.
Exactly. And then final thing is, so the Green Lantern project, the Green Lantern project. So is there any like anything that you know about it or anything that you could share about it? Like, is it, we really don't know too much about what it's going to be besides, all right, it's got all these people in, they're going to use all these different Green Lanterns, potentially 2 different timelines.
At least 2. I think maybe 3 at this point, actually.
Okay.
And it's going to jump around a lot. It's going to be interesting. I did a couple of things that I didn't really sit well with. I guess they're making Alan Scott a closeted gay man in the 50s, so he's going to have a family, but he's also going to be like moonlighting, kind of a thing, which is like, okay. I mean, that was more recent comic change, so I guess that's what they want to do because inclusiveness, I guess.
Right.
But I'm not like 100% against it. I just was like, all right, I guess that's what they're doing.
Okay.
Yeah.
The more modern stuff is going to be Jessica Cruz and Simon Baz, which is okay. You're going to have Guy Gardner and like a different timeline that's before the Jessica Cruz stuff. And they're really playing him off like an alpha male kind of a character, like a jock, which is within his character, but like as like the only white character on the cast, they're making him like a caricature. So I'm kind of like,
Right.
You don't have to play with caricatures. Let these characters just exist. I mean, we can do better. But I have a little grievance in there. But from my understanding, it's going to start filming in the next few weeks, and we're going to get some casting very soon because any outdoor filming they do is going to have to be either announced or they're going to spoil it with paparazzi. So,
so are we?
The reason I ask, one second. The reason I ask is noticeably absent from that is Hal Jordan and Jon Stewart, right? Yep. And this ties in back to the Snyder Cut where, okay, don't use Jon Stewart, right? Because they have plans for him.
Mm-hmm.
Well, if it's not going to be in the Green Lantern show, then again, so I'm just confused on like, maybe they're hiding. Jon Stewart will show up in the Green Lantern show, or
I think they will show up. But from my understanding, it was that the buddy cop Hal Jordan and Jon Stewart movie is still on the table.
Okay.
And they were tying the movie into the show and vice versa.
Oh, okay.
So
okay.
They're doing it that way. And I think Kyle may be in the show too. I'm not sure. I haven't heard his name come up in a few things.
Kyle Rayner.
Yeah.
I believe. Yeah. Okay.
Which honestly, I think Kyle is one of the most underappreciated Green Lanterns.
Green Lanterns, yeah, for sure.
Because a lot of people see him as like whiny and like all that stuff, but it's also because like his girlfriend was murdered and stuck in a fridge. Like it's like when you look at the old Spider-Man movies with Sam Raimi, and I love those movies to death, but they gave us the whiny Peter Parker that only existed in the comics after Gwen died. Right. So you don't get everything.
What the hell? I don't know why that just popped up. But yeah, so you don't really get, and I do understand that though. I understand why someone may have thought, or Kyle Rayner is kind of, I do get that. I could see where they're coming from on that. I mean, for me, I know for same thing for Matt, Green Lantern's always been one of my favorite characters. So like, we really haven't got a lot of information, and we haven't got a lot. Like the last thing that we got was the Ryan Reynolds Green Lantern movie,
and the dead Kilowog in Justice League,
and the dead, yes. So it just seems like such a big character to be leaving out of all the beginning plans, because I mean, he's really a founding member of the Justice League. I just, it's like, what were they afraid to use him because of the Ryan Reynolds stuff?
Maybe. I mean, and then you've also got John Diggle is John Stewart on the CW.
Right. Yeah.
So we know that they're going to use John Stewart eventually because he got the ring in the weirdest way possible.
They teased it at the end with just a green box with the glowing on his face, which I thought was, has he ever shown up since then?
I don't know. I don't watch the CW.
Neither. I gave up on it, honestly.
I tend to give these shows 2 seasons, and if the show's not good by second season, I kind of move on.
Right.
Which coincidentally, always the second season for these shows are always the best season, but then there's like an immediate drop off in quality by season 3.
Yeah. So. Agreed. Well, I mean, the future, at least in my mind, the future is hopeful. Nothing is saying that there won't be the Snyderverse. Nothing is saying that there will be. But we do know about all these other films, Flash, Robert Pattinson, Batman. Now we have J.J. Abrams and Ta-Nehisi Coates working on a Superman. So, there's projects in the works, but not the ones that necessarily we would like to see. So, I mean, it's still up for debate, and I think that's why we can still talk about these things. I feel like Marvel will come out and just be like, all right, hey, this is the next 5 years.
Right.
This is the movies you're getting. Let's get amped up for it. But with DC, it's always like kind of set guessing, and is it going to be this or that? And I feel like that's pretty frustrating, and that's what leads to these conversations. But
mind you, Warner Brothers and DC, they greenlight a lot of projects that we don't hear about, and then the problem is that they have a lot of leaks. Like for instance, Michael Bay was supposed to give us a Lobo movie like 5 years ago.
Right.
Steven Spielberg was supposed to give us a Blackhawks movie about 5 years ago.
Right.
We have a lot of leaks where you're like, oh, this project sounds pretty cool, but it doesn't really go anywhere because it's not even in the pre-production phase.
Right.
So
New Gods.
Disney is pretty good about announcing stuff when it's already in that phase where they can say, yeah, we're making this movie in 6 months because we've already done all the pre-production. Warner Brothers just has an issue where people just leak shit all the time.
Yeah. And then sorry, now that I just brought that up, so not getting New Gods anymore. And what was the other one? The Trench, not getting that.
Yep.
I mean, are you okay with that? Are you okay?
Well, the Trench to me was a knee-jerk reaction, and even I think James Wan said it, that the movie is not even in pre-production. It was being discussed when it was leaked, so it wasn't even like really a thing yet. The New God stuff was kind of a bummer because I mean I was mad about certain decisions they were making, but I kind of knew it wasn't going to happen just because like you had kind of a warring direction for this thing. You had one side that wanted to make it like its own thing, one side wanted to make it 100% Snyderverse, and then you had one side that wanted to like I don't know, do something very different than the other two. So I never saw it as moving forward just because it'd gone through like 5 or 6 different script rewrites in under a year because they couldn't decide what they wanted.
Right. Yeah. it's sad, but potentially in the future, I guess by them not doing it now doesn't mean that we won't get these in the sometime in the distant future. And I think it'd be cool to like, to explore the New God story. I think it's, especially right now with the Eternals coming out, I think that would have been a good, put it head to head kind of deal. But, we always love having you on, man. I'm sorry about some of the confusion, but
oh, you're fine.
we'll have to do it again, of course, soon when Justice Con's not happening.
I wanted to ask real quick before we end it, because I know we mentioned it earlier. So how mad do you think Alfred Molina's publicist is right now?
Understandably. I think Alfred Molina basically realized that he can say what he wants, and they can't really fire him because who he is. So he had like a Jason Momoa moment where they said, "Don't talk about the Snyder Cut," and he said, "Fuck yeah, I want the Snyder Cut." That's kind of like what I see happening. His publicist was like, "No," and they're like, "Okay, well, we can't do anything about it."
That's hilarious.
But it's not like they can fire him because then there would be an uproar among fans. So.
Right. Man.
Right. But I really do appreciate you joining us today, and
man.
We'll do it again soon. Maybe you bring Matt along and do a little reunion, maybe down the road.
Sure.
I really dig what you guys are what's going on. At the Cultured Nerd and LightCast. I wish you guys all the best. I'll always keep tuning in and seeing what's popping around the area. So I don't have the things up, but what's your Twitter? It's at the Cultured Nerd?
Yeah. At the Cultured Nerd on Twitter, and on Vero, the website has at the Cultured Nerd on Vero, and I have my own personal Vero at Taylor Murphy. So
okay.
People who want to see like what I'm doing when I'm not doing this, like what cartoons I'm watching, like that's kind of what I post a lot of is what anime am I watching this week, and it's like what show have I introduced my son to?
Right.
Like that's kind of what that is.
Right.
Which is funny because a lot of people don't realize that like I like anime, and then I have like box sets.
Oh, nice.
Box sets for Fullmetal Alchemist. I've got even
yeah.
I got a lot of it riddled in here. I got Cowboy Bebop over there, Persona over here, My Hero Academia. Like I have a lot of anime. I like it. I'm not like a weeb, but I'm also not. So.
Right. Yeah. Honestly, I like all forms of media and stuff like that, but I find anime the most difficult for me to watch. Stay involved with it or stay like enjoying it. Because sometimes I get the quick animation gives me like kind of a headache.
Yeah. I personally always gravitate toward the Miyazaki stuff, like Spirited Away, Princess Mononoke. Those are the ones that I 100% gravitate to more.
Right.
It's not like the fast food anime. It's like that's the Fine Art Academy Award winning stuff. Like I like that stuff. But I also just like a lot of stuff in general.
Yeah, and you're a huge Star Wars fan. So when things like the Bad Batch, when's the Bad Batch coming out?
May the 4th.
Of course, right?
Come on.
Why wouldn't it be? Right. So I know you're going to be into that. I mean, the Star Wars, was it the Republic Radio you guys got going now?
I'm supposed to be joining Sean in a couple of weeks, and we're going to be discussing like George Lucas's planned sequel trilogy with like how Leia was supposed to be the chosen one.
Right.
Very different story. Going to be talking about like Colin Trevorrow's almost made episode 9.
Right. Duel of the Fates.
I want to 100% go into like this deep dive into Darth Revan because he's one of my favorite characters, but he's in the canon, but he's not in the canon.
Right.
I feel like you're making this show for me, man. Like this is everything I love. Everything you're saying right there. I can't wait.
Yeah. We're gonna have a lot of fun with it. I'm a huge Star Wars fan. So.
Yeah, so let's convene. I know Austin's a huge Star Wars fan. I watch. How I was explaining to Austin was like, I'm the guy that I go when I'm playing a video game. I go straight down the linear path, right down the center, and just get to the end of it. So I miss 80% of the content, like all the animated, all the tie-in comic books. I didn't do any of the side quests. I just watched the movies.
That was that's how my dad is. I was watching The Mandalorian with him, and then in season 2, when Ahsoka Tano's episode came up,
right,
we were watching it, and he's like, "Who's this girl?" And I'm like, "That was Anakin." And he pauses it, and he's like, like Darth Vader? And I'm like,
Yeah.
yeah. When did that happen? I'm like, oh, during the Clone Wars. The movie? I'm like, no, there was a TV show that took place over that 4-year gap. And he's like, Anakin had an apprentice? I'm like, yeah. And then I had to like give him like the Cliff Notes version of the character. And then like at the end, he's like, who the hell is Thrawn? I'm like, oh. Okay. Let's get the charts out, 'cause I'm going to have to lecture.
They just tried to do that to me the other day. I really don't know who that is. So, I would love for you to come explain it maybe one day.
Essentially Benedict Cumberbatch, but blue and evil. Like, he's a bad guy. He's a massive evil character in the Empire. Right. And honestly, so cool.
Yeah, it's going to be exciting to see him in Ahsoka.
Yeah. I really loved Star Wars Rebels. And
me too.
Having the payoff of having the live action show being like the continuation of that storyline, I want that now.
Oh, absolutely.
Right.
Absolutely.
But yeah, so we'll make some plans. Sounds like a good time. But thank you guys for I know everyone. Thank you guys for showing up today. Always, as always, we just love having these conversations. This is something new that we're doing. So we're doing a show in the morning, and it kind of like allows us to like not talk every day about movies and TV. Maybe do a little bit alien stuff, which I love that stuff. So this gives us a broader range of topics, which I find to be that's what I like about it. So we'll definitely have to have you back and just discuss other things. So till then, Taylor, keep doing what you're doing and keep being the best version of yourself.
And if anybody wants to follow Culture Nerd, I know I put it in the comment section on YouTube, so you guys can link that. Follow and let them know.
Yeah, I'm pretty sure they all know what the Culture Nerd is already.
Right.
But anyway, thank you guys for showing up, Austin, and I. Sorry, I'm a little flustered now. I'll be honest with you. Like, subscribe. I don't know, that kind of stuff. Join the Patreon or something. We do it for you and we do it for the culture. I'll see you on the other side.